Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. You may or may not have seen the footage taken on the HIC-35 Vulcan. That's real world footage. So I'm going to give you a little bit of personal feedback, but I'm going to keep it short. Number one, the neoprene pouch it comes in is quite small. It's a little bit tight, but it will go in and it will store and it's quite secure. So now we're just going to drop that on the floor. This is the unit. Starting, there's a neck strap, single point attachment. That does the usual thing the single point attachment does, and it just swings around and about, floats around, and every time you pick it up, you know, you've got to make sure you orient it correctly. I would like to have seen HIC, and perhaps they will in a future version, they'll make a double sling point attachment. Were it mine and I was keeping it, I'd use the 1/4 inch thread adapter on the bottom, and I would add something to do that. There is a USB-C charging port here. It takes about 5-6 hours to charge. That's giving me an honest 4 to 4.5 hour runtime depending on the mode it's set on. That's not super long, and of course it's an internal battery, so if you do want more power you are going to have to carry a battery backup for that to plug in on there. The offset of that is it's a compact unit, it's one-handed, and you haven't got too much weight messing around, and if you've got a pocket, it goes in your pocket, it's almost forgettable. It's about 480 grams off the top of my head. Now, with this being quite an early unit, I can't tell you everything about it because the functions and specifications do change slightly as firmware updates go on. So if you want the latest details, facts and figures, you will have to still go on the HIC website to see what they've changed. There are some I'll mention as we go along here which are beneficial. Right, just to give you a brief detail of how I use it. The lens cap there, it doesn't sort of really stay on very well. But do you know what? That's most of the bad stuff out now, because the rest of it's all good. Focusing on the eyepiece is in this recessed collar here. It's very good and it's very accurate, and the number one thing I love about this HIC-35 is that it's completely ambidextrous. It's got a rectangular eyepiece. You can use it on either eye to save eye strain with no messing about, and either hand too. The buttons are all ambidextrous as well, and the internal screen quality is excellent. The lens on the back does not give you this little silly pinprick focal point or fisheye sort of look about it. It is market leading, that lens, and I've used a lot of thermal. Okay, everything's thermal, doesn't involve lenses and this, that and the other, but there is still one lens involved, and it's the one that's focusing this lens here for your eye onto the screen inside. That is an excellent start. In terms of detail in the field, you've got front focus here to give you your, the depth of field on the f1 lens. I tend to set it about 150 meters and generally leave it be if I'm out foxing or stalking. I've mostly used this for foxing so far. If I do have to focus in for more detail, then I will do that. But generally speaking, depth of field's pretty good, and I'm looking at detecting heat sources, and I'm only going to really start refining it if I do have to, look in slightly more detail. What else could we say now? The outer body, it's a tapered, sort of slightly soft touch finish. It's got plenty of grip on it. It's hand filling. It's not the most compact unit, but as I said, it's completely ambidextrous. There are 5 buttons on top. These are obviously ambidextrous as well. It's a 5-second hold to turn it on, and then it's about another 5 or 6 seconds before the screen comes to life. That's actually longer than the instruction book says it is, and I think these are one of the factors that are going on in the firmware changes. Also, the length of time the button presses is also changing, and I believe they're being shortened slightly, because some of these are taking sort of 3 to 5 second holds to activate things like the camera, power on off, etc. Focus control is immediate. You've got 1, 2 or 4 times. Again, the new firmware apparently is going to give you an 8 times magnification, but that's all digital. It's 2.36 times magnification baseline, I believe. They work quite nicely, very fast, immediate, if you like focus and increasing magnification, because of course you do get some pixelation which increases. That's a simple factor because it's all digital magnification. Another factor I like is there's a button on here which turns the screen on off pretty much immediately, and it's amazing how much light does come out of these and blasts all over your face. So being able to turn the screen off, save your battery, another excellent point, and you don't have to do the full shutdown, this, that and the other, which of course does take a lot of time. Menu functions are all controlled within. You've got up and down keys and the menu button there. Some things could do with a little bit more variation on things like screen brightness and contrast. Have only got 3 levels each. I'd like to see a bit more on those, but you know, you get there in the end. And you've also got an update on the what is currently summer-winter mode, which I believe is going to be changed to a mode that gives you sort of more identification mode. It changes the screen metering slightly, so you're not going to have the problem if you get the sky in view of the whole screen whiting out on you, because of course the sky is very cold, and if you go too much onto the screen, lifting up and down, sorry, if you have too much sky on the screen, you know, scanning up and down, the lower half of the screen, which is what you're looking at for your quarry, does tend to white out. That's going to be changed with the firmware update. How do I like it? Well, do you know what? It's a monocular. I've been using binoculars, I've used a lot of other monoculars. I've used Pulsar, I've used Zeiss, I've used iRay, I've used all sorts of things. I am actually quite a fan of the HIC. This rear lens cannot overstate just how good that is and how comfortable it makes it, because I personally do like to change between one eye and the other, or one hand and the other. I don't think I'm alone. A lot of people have said they sometimes get migraines and this, that and the other from any monocular. Being able to switch between eyes, you know, completely naturally without having to rotate any kind of eyepiece is a very helpful factor. And a good friend of mine who's used this, who has suffered migraines in the past because of that, and I have a little bit too, doesn't get it with this, or other monoculars to be fair. He doesn't get it with other monoculars where you can swap eye to eye. You will lose night vision. It's a simple fact of life, because night vision is not solely about the pupil in your eye dilating or closing down. There are chemical factors involved as well. So I won't go into that now because it's a massively detailed subject. Anyway, I am liking this. You'll see from the footage, I've done quite a lot of foxing with it. You can see rabbits, hares, this, that and the other. Of course, my land doesn't have many rabbits. They're all hares, so I generally know the difference. But of course, with thermal, you can watch things, you watch the movie, and you can see from the gate immediately, you know, it's a different quality to what you think it is. I've had no trouble telling the odd dog, which has come out instead of a fox on my land. Out to 150, 175 metres where I've been spotting one in particular that does tend to invade my territory and I have to be very watchful for. No problem differentiating badges on this. I've seen quite a few deer on it, but yeah, mainly used for foxing. Now somebody's put in the questions, can I see a deer in daylight at 200 metres with this? Well, if you can see a fox, which is a lot smaller, in darkness at 300 metres with this, I don't think that's a problem. But you have to look at the larger factors, like what is your background, what is your scenery, because something on short crop or grass paddocks, whatever, is going to stand out a lot more easily than something in tight woodland. I will report back that in woodland, through some quite heavy cover, I've noticed ramblers who are, you know, trespassing where they should not have been, but all those flickers of hot white light have come blasting through the trees. So I've seen them, I've known they're there, and that is an excellent factor. I have also seen dog walkers, and the dogs are a great factor for these things, because you see them all over the place and they're dotting around here, there and everywhere. The deer themselves also show, but we're in winter coats at the moment. We've not got that much on them, and they are comparatively hot compared to the background. Summer changes things a little bit because the temperature differential is different, but everything still shows. I would reckon that this is easily good enough for 500 metres foxing and stalking as well. What else can I tell you? There are 3 colour palette options, or there are 4, 5 of them maybe. White hot, black hot. There's also like a fusion, which is sort of the multiple colours of this, that and the other, and there's a red hot as well, so I think that makes 4, doesn't it? What else is there to tell you about? Screen on and off I've talked about, which is very quick. It'll do video, it'll do photo. It's got 16GB internal memory size. One slight downside is that it doesn't give you a timestamp or a date stamp on the footage. So if you do need to you know, sort things out carefully to record yourself, or record, you know, footage, record when you've seen animals, it's a slight pain, but generally if you save it and file them away, it's not a problem. That's all accessible using the USB-C port straight into your PC. You can also link this Wi-Fi to your smartphone, which will be, you know, blah in your pocket, or tablet or whatever. I think it's called the T-Vision app. That's very good, and one factor about that is that there is very, very little, if not zero, lag on the communication between the image that this is projecting onto your smart device and others. I've seen a lot of them where you've got easily a second and a half of lag between, and when you turn that, it takes a while for the screen to catch up. So if you're out using it with a friend and you know you're trying to share a thing, some visual aid, it's far more difficult, whereas this is pretty immediate, and I have to say it makes it better. Something else popped in my head, forgotten what it was then. I'm not scripted here, this is just off the cuff because that's how you get me. There's a laser pointer on this. Now, you can see it through night vision at about 100 meters. You can see it with the naked eye, depending on conditions, quite a lot further than that. I've seen it at 200 meters, but I kind of knew where it was pointing, where I was looking. It was very, very handy indoors using 2.2 shot shells on a rimfire for ratting, because you could literally pinpoint the rat, the shooter could go onto it, pop, done. That was quite interesting. You do have to be careful of it because I think it's a class 3 something laser, so don't point it in people's eyes. I think that's about it. It's a great unit. It's about £1,800 retail in the UK. I would be very happy to use this, and I've used lots of thermal, more, nearly 3 times the price of this. Am I shooting any more foxes with those than this? No, I'm not. But I'll add a caveat to that. Most of my land is short grass, paddocks with livestock on, and I've not got the issue of particularly deep cover for lots of things to hide in. And of course, the more complicated your cover is, the more you are reliant on the extreme capability of thermal. This is, I think it's a 17 micron sensor. It's not quite as good in fog and bad air conditions as the 12 micron ones are, but you pay your money, you take your choices, and frankly, I'm shooting as many foxes with this as I was with the 12 micron ones I've been using in the past, and none of them belong to me. I borrow them for a certain amount of time, use them, and I can give a completely, honest feedback on what I think to them. So yes, I'm very happy with the HIC. This is Vulcan 35. I'm looking forward to seeing the Pro version, and also there's a 19mm version, etc, etc. But I'm confident in the brand. And the other thing to say about HIC is, it's a big industrial company. There are something like 15,000 engineers there working on the technology, on firmware, on updates, and the core technology itself, which of course has got massive use in their part of the CCTV industry. It's also supported by a UK service centre, which in this lovely year of 2020 that we've had, where shipping things here, there and everywhere around the world is not an ideal factor. So I also like that. If there are any more things to add, I'll put them in the comments or in the description. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. There's always videos popping up on this, that and the other. I like to keep them quite informal because I don't want to be one of these people who stage manages everything, because do you know what? I think off the cuff is more honest. And there's one last thing I'll tell you. It's got a hot tracker in this. Just popped into my head. It's a little green cross. It dots around the screen, and it picks the hottest point in the current field of view and highlights it. I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of it because it's quite busy, and with it being quite small and a crosshair rather than a square, it tends to obscure, so especially smaller things like the hairs and whatever, tends to obscure them beyond about 100-150 meters. You kind of looking at a cross and not the thing itself. But it's good, and it highlights the new factors in your field of view. It brings your attention to them. But I would prefer a little box on that one. It takes some battery power out of it as well. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed watching that. Please, like, subscribe, add comments. The more traffic we get, the more videos I'm likely to produce. So thank you for watching. Look after yourselves, and since it's nearly New Year's Eve, Happy New Year for 2021 in a few days' time. Let's hope we get that little niggly thing of this year out of our systems. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.